Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. We are from Group 3. So the case study that we choose is Murder of Stephen Lawrence. There are three things that we will be discussed. The first one is chronology, then cause of death, and the last one is evidence. I will be presenting a brief overview of the Stephen Lawrence murder case, including the incident itself, the investigation, and the punishment of those responsible. Stephen Lawrence was an 8-year-old student who aspired to become an architect. On 22 April 1993, he was murdered in a racially motivated attack in Eltham, South East London. That evening, Stephen was waiting at a bus stop with his friend, Dwayne Brooks. Without any provocation, a group of white youths approached them, shouting racist abuse. The gang suddenly attacked Stephens and stabbed him. Dwayne managed to escape to get help, while Stephen ran a short distance before collapsing from his injuries. Despite effort from members of the public and emergency service, Stephen later died due to severe blood loss. On 23 April 1993, just one day after the murder, police received a letter naming potential suspect. Surveillance was later carried out and several individuals were identified. However, progress was slow, leading Stephen's family to publicly express frustration on 4 May 1993, stating that the police were not doing enough to catch the killers. 2 days later, they met Nelson Mandela, bringing international attention to the case. Between 7 May and 23 June 1993, 5 suspects were arrested. 2 of them were charged after being identified by Dwayne Brooks. However, on 29 July 1993, the Crown Prosecution Service dropped the charge, claiming the evidence was unreliable. On 22 December 1993, the inquest into Stephen Lawrence's death was halted after new evidence was described as significant. In April 1994, the CPS again refused to prosecute, citing insufficient evidence. As a result, in September 1994, Stephen's parents, Nurin and Neville Lawrence, launched a private prosecution against Gary Dobson, Luke Knight and Neil Accord. The private prosecution went to trial in April 1996, but the case collapsed when the judge ruled that Dwayne Brooks' identification evidence was inadmissible. All defendants were acquitted. In 13 February 1997, the inquest resumed and delivered a verdict of unlawful killing, stating that Stephen Lawrence had been killed in a completely unprovoked racist attack by 5 youths. The following day, the Daily Mail published the names and photographs of the suspects, keeping the case in the public eye. Later, in 1997, a public judicial inquiry was announced, chaired by Sir William Macpherson. The inquiry opened in 1998, and in February 1999, the Macpherson report was published. It concluded that the Metropolitan Police Service was institutionally racist and led to major reforms in policing and criminal justice. Despite this, by 2004, the CPS again ruled out prosecution. However, in 2005, the double jeopardy rule was abolished, allowing retrials if new and compelling evidence emerged. A new forensic review began in 2007 using advances in forensic science. This review eventually led to a breakthrough. In May 2011, Gary Dobson and David Norris were charged with Stephen Lawrence's murder after new forensic evidence was identified. Their trial began in November 2011, during which the jury heard that Stephen's DNA was found on their clothing. Finally, in January 2012, Gary Dobson and David Norris were found guilty for murder. Both men received life sentence, which is the most severe punishment under UK law. Gary Dobson was given a minimum term of 15 years and 2 months, while David Norris received a minimum term of 14 years and 3 months. As they were juveniles at the time of the offence, they were sentenced to detention at Her Majesty's pleasure, equivalent to life imprisonment for adults. The judge described the crime as a terrible and evil, racially motivated murder.
Next, I will present the cause of death in the case study of the murder of Stephen Lawrence and explain how the injuries led to fatal outcomes in the body. Stephen Lawrence's death was caused by multiple stab injuries to the upper body, which resulted in severe internal bleeding and a lack of oxygen in the body. These injuries damaged vital organs and major blood vessels. As a result, the body could not circulate enough oxygenated blood. The combined effects of blood loss and oxygen deprivation ultimately led to death. Stephen Lawrence sustained deep stab wounds to the upper body, particularly around the chest and shoulder area. These wounds penetrated vital structures, including major blood vessels and internal tissues such as the lungs. This caused rapid and uncontrolled internal bleeding, which was life-threatening and progressed very quickly. Due to the severe blood loss, there was a rapid decrease in circulating blood volume. Blood is responsible for carrying oxygen to vital organs. When blood volume decreases, oxygen delivery becomes ineffective. Blood pressure drops, and organs like the heart and brain do not receive enough oxygen, leading to the shock. As oxygen levels continued to fall, the body could no longer function properly. Cells were unable to produce energy, causing organ damage and failure. Although the heart continued to pump, the blood carried very little oxygen. The brain and heart were affected first, and this prolonged lack of oxygen ultimately caused death.
Now, let's move on to evidence. Initially, the Stephen Lawrence case was poorly handled, with investigators relying mainly on eyewitness accounts. In 1993, Dwayne Brooks identified suspects, but police follow-up was inadequate and no strong physical evidence was found due to limited forensic technology at the time. However, during a cold case review between 2006 and 2011, advanced forensic techniques revealed crucial evidence. A microscopic bloodstain matching Stephen Lawrence's DNA was found on Gary Dobson's jacket, indicating close-range impact pattern. Next, fibers from Stephen's clothing and a hair fragment were also recovered from the suspect's clothing, showing direct physical contact during the attack. In addition, cut marks on Stephen's clothes were consistent with knife penetration. Using blood pattern, fiber transfer, and wound analysis, forensic experts reconstructed the attack, concluding that Stephen was stabbed from the left side with an upward motion. This forensic breakthrough ultimately provided the evidence needed to secure convictions.